As we continue with our New Year messages, we have said, if it had not been for the Lord, looking at God's faithfulness in spite of our shortcomings. Today, we are saying, reflections, mirror, mirror, what does the future look like? Often, the answers for the future are in the past. In most cases, some people have got their own fears that lead them to a point of denial, not wanting to face the truth that they may find should they do a true reflection of their lives. There are piercing questions that we must ask ourselves. What have I become? That is a question of reflection. We live life unpredictable, life of successes, life of failures, life of challenges. But in spite of all of that, the most pressing, intriguing question that each of us must ask ourselves, what have I become? It is important that we make sure that our challenges do not make us to be that which we hate. It is important for us to make sure that our successes do not make us the people that which we swore we would never be. We have records in life of people who were destroyed by failures. We have records in life of people who were destroyed by their successes. We also have records in life of people who were transformed by their failures. And we also have records in life of people whose successes transformed not only themselves, but the lives of those that are around them. Reflections. Life has a mirror, and that mirror is memory. Imagine yourself standing in front of a mirror, looking at yourself, but this time around, not in your physical form, but in your true character. For the beauty of the outward form can hide a lot of evil. We can be faithful to Virgin Active to keep a healthy form on the outside, but it can hide a lot of brokenness inside of us. Standing in front of the mirror, let us reflect and look at the image of our true form in character, in mind, in heart, and in personality. Who and what have we become? Jim Rohn makes a statement and he says, it is important for each of us to make a commitment to become a millionaire, not for achieving the millions, but for the person we become in pursuing the millions. Many of us, through struggles, we have become bitter. And others, through success, we have become proud. Let's look at examples of people who, either by their successes or their failures, were either made to be better people or destroyed by their experiences. May our experiences make us better people. We find Peter, who failed God, and in his failure of God, he became a better person. For Jesus speaks to Peter in Luke chapter 22, and he says to him, you are going to deny me. But Peter, being proud and confident, he says, they may all deny you, but not I. I will be there with you and I will die for you. And Jesus in verse 32 says, I have prayed that your faith does not fail. As we go through life, we must live life with humility, knowing that just like Peter, there are things about us that we do not know. There are things about us that we may not even be aware of. For there are red flags in our characters that we may not even be aware of. As God warns us, take the warning with humility. Don't be proud to say, they may all, and they have all done these things, but I will never be found guilty of the same. Be humble and take caution and learn from the failures of others, that you may not fall to be the same. David was also transformed by his failure. Listen, David is called a man after God's own heart, but it did not start there. He had a failure, a dismal, tragic failure. He took a man's wife. Not only that, he killed him, murdered him, a murderer and an adulterer. Yet, this man, through that experience, God was able to look at his life and say, David is a man after my own heart. Failures do not have to break us. They can make us to be better people. It is when actually we fail that we realize that we are dependent on the righteousness of God. There are also figures in the Bible who were transformed by their successes, and they used their success for the transformation of others. Joseph, from a slave to a governor, from a slave to a prime minister of the nation. Joseph, who was sold by his brothers, undeserving, yet he found himself in difficulties. Listen, you may also find yourself in situations that you did not create yourself, for in life we will go through challenges that are not of our own doing. But when that happens, remember the story of Joseph, that still God takes responsibility for your life, and he guides and protects and provides for you, and he blesses the hand of those that are finding themselves in challenges that were not of their own doing. And Joseph was blessed, was successful in the presidency this man served. And there he became a blessing to Egypt and became a blessing even to his own brothers and the entire nation of Israel. We end off with characters who were destroyed by either their failures or their successes. King Saul, a man of stature, with a form of a soldier, a warrior, a form of godliness, yet this man failed. And when he failed, that was the end of him. He never rose and repented from his sin. Judas Iscariot, a man by proximity near Jesus. This man sold Jesus for 30 pieces of silver. And at the end, how does his life end? He hung himself. Yet his life was lived at the feet of Jesus. Failure can also destroy you. Where have you failed? Do not let your failure destroy you. Like David, rise and be transformed from your failure. Do not let your shortcomings be the end of you. Rise and repent from your failures. God can transform your life. We also see Nebuchadnezzar, a king of Babylon, who was destroyed by his own success. He had everything, and he said, "Look at what I have done." Pride comes before the fall. And he set up a great statue, asking all to worship it, for he believed he is God. We also learn of King Solomon, whose wealth corrupted him. It corrupted him into idolatry and fornication. Do not let your wealth destroy you. As we chase wealth, let us remain humble. Let humility serve even in the presence of wealth. As we review and look at our lives, a simple question for us to ask ourselves: how did we get here? How did we get here? Often we complain, we murmur, we are bitter about life, but we fail to ask a simple question of reflection and introspection. How did I get here? How much of my life rather, am I responsible for? How much of how things are working out am I responsible for? Wealth is not necessarily something that must destroy us. If we remain humble, we can be wealthy with integrity. We can be wealthy and holy. We can be wealthy and righteous. Looking at our own lives, as we look back into the year, reflections. Take a moment to reflect. Life is busy, but a moment of reflection on a daily basis is important. That we, in reflection, must remain humble at all times. In looking back, we must ensure that our humility is not interfered with by either the failures or the successes that we have achieved or failures that we have experienced. May God be with us as we stand before the mirror. May we truly see the reflection of our own characters, and may we humble ourselves for God to make a difference in our lives. In looking at the past, looking at the reality of our characters, what does your future look like? May God be with you.